right, so let's talk about middlewares. What are middlewares? How can we leverage middlewares in our Node.js Express-based applications? And then we'll talk about JSON Web Tokens, which are like this huge thing that are used during login flows and then throughout your APIs as well. So let's start. So I'm at this ExpressJS's documentation website, and I'm at the middleware section, and I have my sticky notes. You can find this link for middlewares in the description of this video below. So, what are middlewares? As per the documentation, middleware functions are functions that have access to the request object, the response object, and the next middleware. Functions in the application request response cycle. The next middleware function is commonly denoted by a variable named next. So imagine I have this, and I'll show you, share this with you with a code example. But imagine we have this uh, API. Let's go back to our code example. I'm here in my server, and I'm using this router called /user. And if I go there, I have these set of APIs. Now imagine as soon as a user hits on this API, the user makes a request, it comes to our server, and before it goes there, I want to perform some operations on it. Can be anything. Can be authentication. Maybe I just want to add some headers or or anything like that. So I'm just going to come here. I'm going to create a route here along with its controller, and I'll add the middleware here as well. So I'll call this middleware demo. So the route for this will be user slash middleware demo, but let's not get in that. Request response next, and this is where I'll use the example for next. All right. So what I will do is I will say, all right, uh, const payload is equal to user ID. I'll just call this one user name. I'll call this Pikachu. And then I'll hit next. And before I hit next, and I'll talk about what next does is what I'll do is request dot information is equal to payload. And just one more thing before we go there. Let's go into our function and we can see that this is how it's done. So it's a function. Let's just let me just show you this with an example. So I have so this has three arguments now. The first one is the route, and then we have our middleware, and then we have our own, then we'll write another middleware. Everything is controllers are basically middlewares. Okay, so what I will do is I will say console.log request.information, and then I'll just say return response.status, return response.status 200, and I will say JSON success true, and let's see if this works. I'll see in 0. I'll do an npm start. It's connected with nodemon and saying nodemon. Oh, all right. So I forgot to install my applications, but it shouldn't take that long because I don't have a lot of packages in my package JSON. I just have Course, Express, Morgan, Node1. All right, so it's done. I'll do npm start again. All right, so it's listening on port 3000. I'll just go here. I'll open my Postman. and I'll hit this API. Let's see what happens. Job very well done, middleware demo. All right. Job very well done, middleware demo. Okay. So one thing that I we messed up for here is it's taking this as an ID. So I probably have to move this one step ahead, up of this, because this is a dynamic value, and the code is always executed from top to bottom. So as soon as like reading routes, it comes at this user slash some ID. It's going to consider that middleware slash demo as an ID. So I have to add this here in order for this to work. Now, anything can be an ID except this thing, because middleware demo is itself a route name. It's not going to be considered as an ID. All right, let's see. All right, so it said success true, and it should also console us this information. All right, let's add another example, but with this, what I will do is I'll create up my own middleware file. I'll create up a folder called middlewares, and then I will call this as auth.js for some reason. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say export const decode request response next, and then I'm going to do export const encode. So we get some user information when the user logins. As soon as he logins, we have his information like his ID, his name, and everything else. We can store that information in our token, and code is that part which we will use in all of our API endpoints to read information back. So I'll just leave this empty for now because okay. Now I'll come here. I'll take all of this information. I'll put this here, and then I will go up at the top. I will say middlewares. I have this habit of commenting different sections in my top imports so that I know um, what I'm doing. I'll call this require middlewares auth. I'll call this decode for some reason. It should be actually it should be encode. So I will remove all of this, and I will replace this with a function of mine, which I'll call encode. And then if I do, all right, it's saying unexpected token export. Okay, all right. So what I can do further here is if I can't do this, because export, I'll just say const auth, export this as an object. All right. And then I will have this encode method, which is also equal to this, and I will remove all of this. All right, now it's giving me an error on. Okay, so now I have auth, and I can just call it auth dot encode, and then probably forgot to export it. Module dot exports is equal to auth. All right, so now I have everything. All right, screen, that means it's founded. And now let's see if I still get that same information. I should probably do this. Data request dot information console. Remove this console. Now in my encode method, let's forget about decode for a while. Uh, as soon as user hits this API called slash user slash middleware demo, before it actually hits that endpoint, it's going to go through this middleware first. So try to understand it like this. I have this route, and then the information processing starts here. It's going to go through here first, and as soon as it sees the next message, it's going to jump to the next block of function. So as soon as it sees next, it's going to jump to this block of function here. I can even do some error handling there and see if something is wrong. I can just stop it there and return something to the user with a status and a JSON response saying that we should probably stop here. There's something wrong here, and you should fix it. All right. So let's see if this works before moving forward. So I have this localhost colon 3000 slash user slash middleware demo, and it says request is not defined. It is absolutely right because I have not defined my request there, and I probably don't need the next method here because I'm not going to be using it. And now if I do this, it says next is not defined. Oh, so I am using next there. I'm not using next here because this is the final function that gets called. Let's see. All right, so I have user ID information. Now, what can I do here furthermore? Uh, let's do some JSON encode decode. I'll install a package. I'll call it npm I JSON web tokens token slash save. And all right, it found zero vulnerabilities. I'll go up. I'll say const JWT is equal to require JSON web tokens, and let's just imagine that the user this was the login API and the user was entering some username and password. Let's just go with that, or maybe I can just do this post, and you know what, this is expecting a username and a response. So what I can do here is username password. This is the middleware login demo route, and the password is Pikachu. But it's not. It's request dot body dot username. So it's something that the user will send us. We're not going to hard code it here, right? And based on this, whatever we get, uh, perform some DB operations to check if the user information is correct or not. I'm not going to work with the database here. In this example, I'm just going to focus on the middlewares and JWT part. But this is normally what happens here. And then what I will do here is I will encode some of my information. So how do I do that? Um, this is how I do it. So I'll say const auth token is equal to JWT dot sign. Now sign, as soon as I do sign, I can, like, the first argument is the information that I want to store in a JSON web token in my JWT. So I will just pass in my payload, and then it needs a second parameter, which is basically this secret key. Now this secret key should never be in your code base. It should be somewhere in an environment variable. So when you're like deploying somewhere through Jenkins, Circle CI, or Travis CI, any of those pipelines, during that pipeline process, you just add it, inject it into your code based on the environment that you're in, either development, staging, or production. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to say I'm going to have my secret key here, and my secret key is going to be it's going to be very secret, but for now it's going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, an exclamation mark for more security. And I'm going to sign this information, and then I'm going to see if it is actually working or not. Should probably work, right? So all I did was, to recap just a little bit. I imported JSON Web Tokens. After installing it, I have a secret key, which should never be in your code. Should be injected through an environment variable, and then assuming that the user sends in some information, username and password, and I perform some database operations inside this middleware. I will take my authentication token, which is formed by using the JWT.sign method. It takes in the first argument as the payload, and then the secret key. This secret key is important because it ensures that a contract is that is being formed is valid. How this will come into place is something that we'll see in the part when I will do the decode middleware. But basically, you can decode any JSON Web Tokens, but having a secret key will ensure that the token that you're ensuring corresponding to a certain secret key, if if that secret key is present, it will ensure that the JSON Web Token that you just decoded is valid, and it's not being hacked by someone else. I'll talk a little bit about more about it. So I'll say username, password, whatever this is. I'm not putting in some validations, just something that I want to teach you guys. All right, a job very well done, middleware demo, and it should, and it's middleware login demo. Okay, middleware login demo. The reason it was being called before, it was calling this API a dot get slash ID, because the ID is colon ID is the magic part. We need to make sure that our out is absolutely correct. And now I will do something like again, job well done, middleware login demo. I think I messed up middleware. Oh, this is why. So it's a post request, and it says data, username, and password. If I go back here, it's decoded this information, the username and password, into this super secret hash key. And now what I will do is I will simply take this auth token, and I will return this to the user. And now I can come back here and say, uh, this is your, I'll probably call this token. Why make it super complicated? Request token, and I will also use here token. And now let's see what happens. All right, so we are getting this token. Now, what I'm going to do is, for all of my other user APIs that I'm going to call, I want to make sure that they are being accessed to someone who is authorized. So no one can just come into my website and just start messing around with my APIs, because API is the major access point to getting information from your database. So this is something that we do not want. So what I will do here is I will go in my decode method, and first of all, I will check if request dot headers slash authorization. If it's not present, there's something wrong. So what I will do is return response dot status 400 is when a user makes a mistake. Maybe the user forgot. I can also give it as a 40401 that you're not authorized to access this. Let's just make it as a 401. Success false. Message. Uh, no token provided. And then what I will do is I'll try to access my token by doing request dot errors dot authorization split, and I'll talk about this in a bit. Uh, what this does basically, every time you send a token value, it's like the header key should be authorization and the value should be bearer space auth token. Honestly, I don't know why this is done this way. Maybe I should look into this, but this is like a major convention that we follow for uh, adding auth headers to our API clients. Next, what I'll do is I'll add a try catch block, because if the way the JSON token works is if while trying to decode the auth token, if it's invalid, it will just throw an error. It won't return a boolean true and false. It will just throw an error. So what I will do is const decode. It's actually decoded. JWT dot decode, and I can say and pass in my token. Now this method is something that we should not use. I will talk to you guys about this in a moment. But remember, we were trying to decode the username and the payload. So what I will do is I will say uh, information is equal to decoded, and then I will say return next. Now, if this fails, if for some reason this fails, uh, what I will do is I will throw a 500. No, again, it's an invalid token, so I'll give it a 401, and the error will this time will be invalid auth token. All right, let's see how this goes. So what I will do is I will, in my user controller auth get all, I will say auth decode, because we've already encoded it before, and then I'll go in my auth controller, and what I will do is I will simply console.log request dot information, right? Let's see if this works. So is this route where I'm trying to encode it? Let's see what. Okay, so this was the first part that got executed. This one, it's saying that the request header's authorization is not available. So I'm just going to throw this message. You're not allowed to move forward. All right, so let's just add some headers. I'll just call this authorization, and then it's hello sir. And then what happens is if I try to do this again, something happened. JSON WT dot decode header and hello sir token. Probably move this down. All right, and I'll also say console.log error just in case if something happens, something at console. Why is not an API being called? Am I using the right method? User slash get slash auth. Sorry. Ah, so no slashes. There. when this happens. Good old called 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 3 return. Let's see what happens. Ah, so this is the reason why it's not being called, because it's inside this if block. Happens to the best of us, guys. And let's see. So it's saying job well done. Uh, job well done. So it tried to decode this. JWT dot wait verify decode. And I would just like to see this decoded information console dot log decoded, and I will call this again. So it's saying null null. Okay, so what I will do here is I'm going to say just for this decode method, if decoded is not available, I'm just going to throw new error, and this error is bad token. I'm not going to catch it here. I'm just going to throw this in the catch block, and let's see what happens. Invalid auth token. Now the problem with this JWT.decode method is, well, while we were signing our token, when making it with a secret key, decoding a token is very easy. The only way to ensure that the token that you're decoding is the right one, and it's not like someone is not being mischievous with you by throwing you, giving you bad information, is by verifying it with the right token. So what I will do here, instead of decoding it, I will use the verify method, pass in the token along with the secret key. And now if I remove this, I just want to be very curious if this works or not. Okay, so it took that token and compared it with the secret key, and basically both of them combined up to make this unique authorization header. And if both of these parameters, while when JWT tries to verify it, if both the token and the secret key are somehow not inside this super secret key, which is it's looking for inside using its verify method, it's just going to say, this is invalid, it doesn't work. So let's validate this, and I'm going to use this method. I'm going to come here, uh, authorization bearer slash hello, and now I'm going to pass this. I'm still saying it's invalid. Request information decoded. Verify auth access token secret key. So just for the sake of it, I will generate a new token. I will call this. I will come here. I will and now I will pass this. It's still saying success false invalid token. Console.log JWT must be a string. Request headers authorization dot split. So when I split this becomes into an array, right? Very silly of me. So the problem here is that I have this bearer slash token, and when I do dot split based on this empty space, it creates this into an array. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to pass an array to this token. It needs a string, right? And it needs not the bearer part, but the authorization string. So I'm going to use the second index, which is 1, and I'm going to run this app again. All right, job well done. And let's see. So we're also getting the information that we were passing in, username, password, and the IAT is something that JWT is adding on its own. But it's super cool. What we've done so far is we've added an encoding method using encoding an a JWT encoding middleware using JSON web tokens, and then we're trying to decode it using this controller here as well. So let's recap this quickly. I have this payload, username and password that the user sends me. And then if this was a real world application, I would perform some database operations to like get some information if the username and password are correct. And I will then take that information that I want to store in my authorization token. I will take that as the payload, whatever that is. I'm just using the username and password here. Combine this with a secret key, which should never be in your code base and should always be injected through an environment variable. And if you want to learn how to do that, just drop me a comment and I'll do that. Next, what I'm trying to do is I'm taking the request payload that the user is sending, adding something of my own to that request payload as the token variable, and passing it to the next middleware, the next function, which is this one. Here, all I'm doing is returning a response with status 200, JSON success true, and token with that request token that was passed in from the previous middleware. Now, to decode it, let's close this one. Let's try to decode this. So, the standard way for access for checking these JSON web tokens and to have access to these authorizations is that you pass in a new header to your APIs, and it is called as authorization. The authorization has a value called bearer space the token name. Uh, the reason why we have a bearer is I'll share this in the link description below, and I have this here just to remind myself that I have to share this in the YouTube description below. All right. So if that authorization header is not available, I'll just throw a 401. 401 means not authorized to access this particular route with success false and message no token provided. Then I will try. I'll have a try catch block outside of my if statement. I will try to now knowing that I have a header I have a authorization header available. I will take that bearer space token. I will split that into an array and take that second part of that array, which is the authorization, assign it to my token variable, and then using the JWT's dot verify method, I will pass in the token along with the secret key. Now, this could also have been done with decode without passing in the secret key, and this would have had worked, whatever that token was. But using decode, we have no way of ensuring that the token that we're getting is if it's the right one, if it's the secure one, it will decode it, whatever it is. But we need to make sure that the token is a valid one, which is combined with our secret key. All right, so we will decode it. If everything goes okay, we will. I will whatever the user is sending me in his request method, the request payload. I will add something of my own, and I will call this information, and I will pass it on to the next function, which is this one. Now, if any of this fails, if there's an error here, I will just simply go to the catch block, and here I will again throw a 401 status code with success false and message saying invalid auth token. The first one was no token provided, and the second is invalid auth token. Now going to my controller, I have this request dot information available, which I did just console here, and it is, as you can see, the exact information that we had decoded earlier in our decode method in our encode method, and that is pretty much it. moving backward and looking at what we did, we talked about what middlewares are, how you can make your own middlewares. We then made two further middlewares using JSON Web Tokens. One was to encode data, and the other was to decode data. I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments below. Throw me a message on Twitter, and yeah, that is pretty much it. Have a good day, guys.